Good morning, everybody. Well, it's morning here, and I'm guessing a whole bunch of people are closer to New Year than I am. And we're going to start with the mandatory. Can you all hear me? For those not living in America, that's kind of funny. There's an old commercial for one of the cell phone networks that had a guy run around asking if people could hear him. So, can you all hear me? I set my microphone on a new setting, so we're trying something new. Yes, good, outstanding. I was trying to sort all the videos for the website that I'm redoing, and I realized that the microphone setting have been incredibly loud on all the other on all the other chats, or just because I don't want to listen to myself talk. I don't know. Everything's possible. So happy New Year, and I want to start with something important. What are you all going to eat for New Year's Eve? We always had fish, and I don't know. What are you guys having? What's normal, and where did the fish come from? Hey, Germany. I don't want recipes. I don't know what you all eating because I'm trying to figure out chicken wings and pizza. But that's what you eat all year, Mike. Lady, I don't know what to say to you, but we're going to have an interesting time eating together or just ordering. The sea. Let's go to Chinese food. Chinese food is a good choice. Steak pie. Interesting. Okay, why is it that in our family we always had fish for New Year? It came from somewhere. I thought, like lamb for Easter. Well, that's pretty much a given, I guess. Fried chicken. Ham and roasted. Kartoffelsalat. Andreas, that sounds like something you would be eating all year as well. I want a picture of the steak pie, by the way. Smoked potatoes with stinky cheese butter, sausage and mustard. What country are you in? The stinky cheese kind of gives it away. You're not downtown for me here. Never had lamb for Easter. Really? We always had lamb for Easter. I actually did a lamb that's incredibly good. I found an actual website where I can order meat from that's a lot cheaper than in the store. Denmark and fish. So is that why we did it? Oh, well. All right, maybe it's just a Danish tradition. If anybody was, yeah. If anybody in my family was sort of still around, I would ask. Steak and kidney pie, nice. Okay. I'm still in bed. Well, if we hadn't been here, I'd still be in bed, or I'd be chasing down the Danish bakery because they sent me the wrong stuff. Don't short somebody with Danish heritage on pastries. Bad things happen. Chocolate mousse. I could do a chocolate mousse. I have that stuff out there. Cornbread. Now, do you do a good cornbread yourself, or do you do a mix? Because most cornbreads I found are kind of dry, but I have a buddy of mine, Steve, out in Tennessee. He does really good cornbread, and it is, knowing Steve, I don't know if you're there, probably the cheapest one out of the box from Walmart, but it always comes out better than at the store. Fish is Scandinavian. It might be a Scandinavian thing. I don't know. We have a lot of fish. All right. Because I kind of, I only had Steve's cornbread or something that's too dry from everywhere else. Nancy Wolf Bunker, sorry, I'm stoned. Well, gee, you're stoned for New Year in America. I'm shocked. That also sounds like something that's done every year, all year. All right, okay, all right. We'll stop talking about the lasagna. Ooh, I make a really good lasagna, but usually only when my guy friends come over because I stick 3 different types of dead animal in there, including cocktail weenies. Yeah, choke on that. Well, your profile name is 420. Of course, you're stoned. I would sort of expect that. Oh, we have a friend of mine brought. Speaking of Ian, speaking of red wine, my buddy he brought Gluck, which I'm a guessing, I don't know, if they do that like in other countries than Denmark. It's like a red wine warmed with almonds and other stuff that I don't drink red wine. It does not agree with me. I don't know why. Yes, I put cocktail weenies in my lasagna. It gives it a little smoky flavor with the bacon and the beef and the beef, of course, and the bechamel sauce. And it's just it's a whole thing. It's heavy, but like I said, I it's not something I would make for a date. Um, um, Somebody asked me about what I would do if I found ordnance lately. So I'd hit it with a little hammer to see if it still works, and otherwise I'll figure out what suitcase it would fit into. Extra beef, yeah, but you have to do the bechamel sauce, the white sauce that goes in lasagna. You have to. Finland does look too. Finland, is there anything you don't drink? Let's just be honest. I will not make fun of the Finns because you're probably going to make me drink something when I come up there. But I can't wait till I want to go to Russia because I really always wanted to get a Kalashnikov vodka because they make the vodka in a glass bottle that looks like an AK-47. So of course Kalashnikov should branch out and do and merchandise a little bit. So we started making vodka. There's one for the bottle. I'm just be damned if I'm going to pay $170 for one in America. So I'll go pick it up myself. Damn it. Dr. Paranormal. That's not a doctor. That's a DL. Hey, DL. A new name I see here before. Outstanding. Glückwein. You do too. Yeah, Glück. I just couldn't get into it. What I should do. I should. We also have blood sausage. That's where I figure some of you are going to fall off. But if you roast it and with sugar and cinnamon, it's phenomenal. Hang on, I saw the word Dutch and stone somewhere. I would expect as much. I've been to Amsterdam a number of times. I'm pretty sure my last cab driver there, he was stoned. In a gun barrel in Amsterdam? Really? Marcus Media, vodka in a gun barrel in Amsterdam. Woohoo! I must have. Oh, caramel Crown Royal. That's phenomenal. Well, caramel anything is phenomenal. Let's be honest. Vodka Russian. Well, vodka is good for you. It heal all problems. Make your leg grow back. No problem. That's how I learned how to throw knives and axes and stuff. Was drunk off my ass with a bunch of Russian soldiers. They will not play with you if you don't drink. So 3 a.m, that's where you find yourself swinging a tool. Oh, you do. I figured Kalashnikov would make good vodka. I like I said, I don't really drink much, but yeah. Do a video of the Berghof. I did a video of the Berghof. However, I have been in touch with a really good guy from out there who's been sending me a whole bunch of books and maps of other things. So I will be going back to the Berghof, and we got to find out what's going on with Hotel Türken because that was purchased after the previous owner died. And I think her kids sold it. So we got to go find out what's going on out there. And not entirely sure. I would like to see Himmler's house. Apparently that might be possible. If I wave the American flag long enough. But it's also for sale, but they won't sell it. Flick punch. What alcohol is in there, William? Let's have a war in Croatia. Haven't you had enough? I think Croatia had enough wars. Play soccer. Same thing. Happy New Year. Hey, buddy. Rambling. How are you? The Kalashnikov car? Oh, dear Lord. All right. Well, if a pretty girl tells me to do something, I will do it. And don't worry, I'll share now that I figure out how to. You have got to be shitting me. All right, let me show you guys all this. Kalashnikov car. Really, I'm kind of digging it. I'm kind of digging it. I kind of am. It's, I think, maybe. Kalashnikov electric car? Oh, it's electric. Oh no. I like the headlights. I do like the headlights. There's potential. We'll just have to rip out that horrible electric engine. I don't know if it's horrible, but I'm going with it. It's, yeah, sir, damn. We got to get the electric crap out and stick a proper, I don't know, V6 with some glass backs in there. It almost looks kind of, it's got a vintage look to it, but I do like the headlights. Gosh, yeah. I want a 1950 Chevy Business Coupe, and then I want to put a Mercedes diesel engine, turbo diesel engine in it, and make it my forever car. And they'll give me an electric car when they can shove it in my cold, dead hands. I made myself clear. And I'm guessing, since I saw the German nuclear power plants are going, half of them are going offline today, I guess you're going to run out. Let me know if your light goes out. I guess solar power in Germany right now is just aces. Joseph P. Farrell says hi. We have been in comms a lot. Well, you're a strange lady. You're here on New Year's Eve. That per definition make you just as batty as the rest of us. So you're in good company. I blew up a Fiat in the Baltics once with an anti-tank mine. Seemed like the thing to do. Anyway, where were we going with this? I was going somewhere with something. Germany's closed down last 3. Oh, you still have 3 online, I hear. There's 3 out of the 6. Yeah, it just sounds like you're brilliant. Exactly. 1990, 97. An old Mercedes diesel engine. Something, not something new, something older. That'll actually last. Anyway, Garage 50. Yes, got to get myself an old car. Then, because if I'm going to stick around in California long enough, they're going to grandfather in the classic cars and leave mine alone. So, me. Servus Deutschland. And anyway, there's been some really weird stuff that's been coming to me that I can't tell you a whole lot about. There's a whole lot of interesting developments on General Kamla that hopefully I should be able to share with you next year. There'll be a conclusion one way or another. I have signed several non-disclosure agreements, so I just can't tell you yet, but I can tell you something is going to happen that will change things. And I have some Swiss bankers have reached out to me, and apparently they'll be getting some interesting documentation on where the money went towards the end of the war. That whole Bormann thing in exports of German industry and money is apparently absolutely correct. So interesting stuff will happen next year. Really, really weird and interesting stuff. And also I'm going to Bike Week, so we'll see if we can find some cool bikes. You know what? A Toyota Tundra is not a bad choice. You got to get something that'll actually last and get you out of town. Here, let me see. Where are you? You're in Sweden. You have to have cars. You're not going to climb all those mountains without them, are you? Yes. All right. Well, since it is New Year, and we're not going to sit here and chit chat forever, because I'm assuming everybody has a life. There was actually a righteous question email that came in from Crystal here. I got a Daytona Bike Week is going to be a staple every year. It's a nice time of year, and it's kind of cool. And we're going to think about all those cool Toyotas and pickup trucks we sent to Afghanistan that they're all enjoying right now. Yes, no bitterness at all on that one. Right. God Nudolf, you too. Yeah. Well, the life means, I got to go to the gym before they close because I'm going to the bakery before or after. So, ITT Quattro, I couldn't fit. It's a girl car, dude. Just like the SLK. It's a girl car. C-Class, You can't be a guy under 25, over 25 and have it. Sorry. BMW 3 Series, can't be a guy over 25 and have it. This is where it's unfair for ladies. You can have all those cool, small European sports cars, and us guys, we just can't. Actually, that was interesting. After I don't know what the weather's like out in Germany. I'm imagining it's cold and miserable and crappy. Well, it's going a little fast here. And I remember after that last storm, they found what the Führer's old gun in one of the wrecked buildings. They found a whole bunch of stuff that came down. I haven't seen. You have a pink rusty bicycle. Can we all save up for a pink non-rusty bicycle for lady? I think that's going to be the 15 Celsius. Buy Muslims. 15 Celsius. That's not bad. It was warmer when I was in Europe in November than almost than when I was there in May. But then again, May everything went kind of sideways. Still don't know where the damn blueberry coffee came from. Still not bad. Minus 35. Where the hell are you? No wonder you're stoned. I don't think we're going to monetize this. I don't think that'll be language appropriate. You know what? The Mustangs are kind of cool, but they just they're a little small. Well, I'm not getting drunk. I'm cooking. Wait a minute, Wirtmeister. How are you doing? Are you back home? That's internal, I know. All right. Trust me, if I had a sexy maid, she would not be old. Oh, and there it goes. Everyone else. Land on ice and snow. Iceland. Yeah, you do have it. Hamburg, plus 10. Oh. On the phone. Are you in the hospital? What happened to you? We all know Weirdmeister. We've been playing around together. And who's taking care of the dog? Give me a summary. I just heard you lack your back or your leg. As we all, I'm just worried about a friend if I have to fly out to Germany and babysit a puppy dog. Who are you picking on, Ian? I'm trying to keep up here. It's not you. Oh, well, in that case, never mind then. But you're still alive then. Damn with everybody and their handles. Oh, of course it's not you. Bloody hell. Never mind. Like everybody has a name and a picture and a handle and another handle, and I have to juggle them all. And it's only morning, and my coffee's dysfunctional, and it's not blueberry coffee. Oh Lord, it wasn't that bad. All right. Since it's New Year's Eve, and presumably somebody out there is having a life, and this person must be identified and pointed out and made fun of, because Lord knows the rest of us doesn't seem to, because that's why we're into history. Why are you going to the hospital? Angioplasty. I wanted a new bunch of everything, but apparently it wasn't in the budget. Pori. Oh. Well, this has been an interesting year, hasn't it? When it comes, I mean, the last trip was a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be. It's funny when I set out to go out and find some of these locations, I have an overall idea of there's certain places I set I want to go, and then I leave enough time to see what is around them. And sometimes you just find strange places and some of the really cool people that I've met into. And I know I love Ludo. Like Ludo's great, and Rogers. It's just, you meet so many amazing people that do everything they can. And the guys from Wagner and Mutzig that spent so much of their life keeping these forts alive. And it's been an awesome year. We met some really cool people, and I'm annoyed that I haven't been able to go to Ukraine, and the Ukrainians in here is going to correct me on that. We must have a Ukrainian here or there. They'll come back. The Siemens Underground thing, no, we're going to go out and dig through that. And I did have one update on one place, but I don't have it with me, so I'm going to have to post it. I found out what a thing is. I got a note of what one of the bunkers we didn't know what was. So I'm gonna put. I just have to translate it from Polish. I've only had 6 months to do it. It's like 4 lines. I have not had 5 minutes to translate that. So, not from the Ukraine, but I'm texting. Well, I wanted to go to Ukraine, and I really want to go to the forts out that is now on the Russian control. So basically, I want to go to Russia, and I want to go to the Russian archives, but they don't let anybody in for now. And I sort of figured when I left in November that they were going to do something silly and lock down the world over winter, because, well, never underestimate the predictability of stupidity. So I sort of didn't, and I went in advance, and I have 50 more episodes to edit just in case we all get locked up for winter. Hey, Polish. Yes, there's going to be a lot more in Poland, a lot more in Czechia, Ukraine. I would love to go back to the Ukraine. I really like it there, but we'll see what happens. I would probably be coming from the Russian side because I have to go to Moscow and find the archives. I really want to go exploring some of the digs they do in former Stalingrad and some of the battlefields, and Leningrad as well. So that's for next year, budgetary, of course. And I thought we were going to Argentina I'm going with a group of guys that's gone there before. I thought this was going to be in mid-May, summer. It's not, it's autumn, because the seasons are flipped. Right now it's summer in Argentina. So unless I find a guide who can get me around there in Argentina in the next couple of months, that's going to be autumn of next year. So for spring and summer and autumn, there's Europe, there's Italy. We go to Switzerland, because there's apparently some interesting stuff going on in Switzerland and hiding out there. And there's a whistleblower that'll tell me about it. And Cook has some friends who owns a fort with some live ammo. Yes. And so there's a lot to follow up on, and all the things and all the questions we have asked this year. Well, obviously, I'm going back to the Siemens bunker. And we'll see what we can find. I had a couple of emails of warning me of mercury, which I really appreciate, because after all this time, I actually hadn't thought about it. Well, I figure I would write Uncle Vladimir and ask if he would mind me coming rummaging around the archives and showing me around. I figured there's nothing like asking directly, just. And there's some interesting places in Poland, like the Kamlostops had a test facility out, and I'm going to Hell, HE_L. There's a research facility out there. Horf Engel had as well. And there's Norway. We got to go to Norway. Siemens Archives. I have spoken with Siemens and the good people there, who knows absolutely nothing and have absolutely no idea what I was looking at. Did not think it should have been there. Contested they could have sold the equipment to whatever was there. It was a very nice professor. He was a professor. They passed me on to a professor at Siemens. He didn't know. He had no idea. He'd never seen it before, which makes it so much more interesting. Hell, good. Go, right? You've been, I can't pronounce your name. Hell in Polish, right? Yeah. I wanted to go in November, but it was so windy. I figured, well, I can't really film it because, well, if I can't bring you good imagery of it, then I can't really show you. And if I can't really show you, well, I'd rather wait and go on. But uh, fangirls. Yes, we have history. We have, oh, what's the term? What's the term? We have history groupies. Yay! But yeah, I would like to go to hell. And if you have my new friend there in Poland, have you been there before? And if you know where Engel's test facility or research building was, I would love to see that. I don't think there's anything left there, but I would love to see it. So we're going there, and I am going to Texas as well because I have to go do. I have to go do a thing on the USS Texas because that old ship is back online, from what I understand, at least temporarily. And there's a couple of forts I want to do. I'm going to do in America as well. I'm going to start doing some of the Star forts, some of the Civil War forts. I don't have to do it all right away as long as you're all entertained. There's plenty of stuff to do for the next many years. And so if any of you know a phenomenal grant writer, then the 501 C3 nonprofit should be online in the next month or so. I should have the documents within that. You have to file quite a lot and write quite a lot, and it costs quite a bit to actually start a nonprofit. But after that, it becomes about writing grants, which, let's face it, I'm probably not going to. I can't do everything at all. So I need to either I would like to hire a grant writer on commission. That's probably not going to happen. Anyway, hell is an unconverted, yes. Country of the United States and Michigan. No, single L, Knut. It's the one in Poland that with a single L out by the coast. It's actually kind of cool. And this time when I was in Europe, it was actually really cold. And I got to go tracking all the way up through Norway because Norway is just brilliant. Everything I need to see is one in the south, one in the middle, and one in the far north. Well done. So I have to travel the entire length of the country. Yay. Which brings me really close to Finland. And I have a number of you guys up in Finland that have suggested I come up there. And I would love to see the Mannerheim Line. And if we're still digging up Sturmgeschütz from the Mannerheim Line, the Germans sent a bunch of tanks and a bunch of Sturmgeschütz up to the Finnish beginning of the war, and some of them was dug in as stationary pillboxes on the Mannerheim Line. And I don't know if you dug them all up yet, or there's still some sitting. There's also some in former Eastern Bloc countries that have been dug in that they're starting to dig out. And I want my own Stug, damn it, and a fort, and all these other things that I also want. Troll Hunter is a good Norwegian movie. Oh, lady, I think I started on that and realized I was sober, and that was a mistake. Some movies, it's just a mistake to watch sober. Speaking of movies that are mistaken, we are almost at delivery of the last war movie I did, and our distributors is happy. So that will come out, and I am thinking when that movie gets released, I'll release the 2 books as well, and we'll just try to do a whole bunch of publicity for that, because the profits from the movie, as we all know, is going to go into my nonprofit, because why would I want to have savings? 2 more programs, more projects from movies. So just flip what you got. Anyway, Finland has that wedge-shaped tank. Sweden. I don't know if Finland bought any of the Swedish tanks. I could see why. I know it looks like a tank destroyer. I think in Sweden, Pia, you know this. Aren't you referring to that as an artillery tank? The one you have up in Sweden that I can't remember the designation of right now because I just can't. But it is kind of cool, and I love that yeah. So where is it? This thing. This thing. Well, what is the designation of that? Lasagna, yes. Isn't that designated as a tank or an artillery piece? It's not designated as a tank destroyer, right? Anyway, that was sweet, and they're kind of cool. They look like the futuristic twin of a Sturmgeschütz. It's a good reason to get one. Tracked car 77. Swedish medium tank. I've never seen this before. I've never seen this one before. That looks like a, what is it, the Russian SVT? No, not SVT, it's Russian. It looks like it, but very nice scenic picture, I gotta say. Huh, that's kind of cool. You do some interesting stuff up in Sweden. I want to come play with you guys. Anyway, and Schweinfurt. OHK Schweinfurt had a really bad time during World War II. It was bombed a lot. And ladies, interesting with the Swedish tank destroyers, they're actually quite old. They were built, late 70s? They've been around for a long time. And they have all these interesting features where they can elevate the whole chassis and tilt the whole chassis. But yeah, maybe I'll see if I find some of my friends in the Swedish military who'll give us a tour. So we built in what did we set up as Schweinfurt after we bombed the living crap out of it during the war? I like prototype tank, prototype armor. I love it. Happy New Year, Peter. I'll see what the Japanese come up with. I hope it lasts. I could come up with a whole bunch of jokes on Chinese tanks. I'm sure they're fine, but I hope they live longer than there are other commercially available electrical sold projects that we get here in the West. As I may have said. Hey, what was that about Ulysses S. Grant? What did I see here? You still go to the commissary's fine for it. Yes, Ulysses S. Grant founded the term lobbying as legal bribery. He's right. It is legal bribery. But then again, why don't politicians just call things the way they are? A bunch of crooks, all of them. We know that. Everybody knows that. It's not a secret. Just call things for what they are. Stop messing about. Chinese technical based. All right. Okay. Fine. We're doing it. We're in this together. Let's find out what a Chinese tank looks like. I'm curious. Chinese tank. Well, gee whiz, they have a whole bunch of Russian tanks. That's not really a surprise. Page not found. I guess they're on to us. What is this? Snafus. All right, we'll do Chinese new tank. Well, it looks like an old T-72, doesn't it? Just with some sort of an upgraded turret. It looks like an old Russian tank. This almost must be an old Russian tank. I would kind of expect them to have something that looks kind of cool. Here's another. I'm not Chinese light tanks. I'm not seeing. Pakistan selects Chinese VT-4 tank. Gee, I'm shocked. It's not like they're not working together. All right, so that's a Chinese tank. It still looks like I got reactive armor on the front here. All right, well, fine. I don't know enough about Chinese tanks. I didn't know I wanted to, but we will. Schweinfurt had 2 U.S. Casanas. Yeah, Cav. Okay. And they'll lift off. Yeah, I know. There's some. There's so much stuff at Schweinfurt. It looks like. I was trying not to say that, but I mean, let's face it. That is what the Chinese have been doing for a long, long, long time. Anything like Chinese motorcycles, Well, after the war, the Russians took all the German machinery of the Sundup, and what you see is the BMW sidecar combo in the German army, and the Russians manufactured that for a few years, which is the Ural, and then that machinery went on to the Chinese, who was also manufacturing them. So the Chinese are actually making knockoff old German motorcycles. They're just a crap load cheaper. We had one, and they need to be rewired. But other than that, they're pretty much the same. But you got to think about, even if you make it the same way as the Germans did it, it was the materials, and there's still a quality time to it. You know what? That's another thing. I'm doing a whole bunch of Cold War stuff this year. Not because I thought I was going to. There's one in Great Forts. There's a post-World War II fort I did. And I did it in a place where National Geographic had actually been before. And we all know that they just run through these places and they suck. So, but there's a couple of places that invited me to come play with them and see their underground and old former World War II German bunkers and command centers. And some of them are out near Schweinfurt. And by the way, so we'll go there, and we'll do it. And then they were repurposed after the war by the U.S. military or whoever. And but I would also love to see some of the old Russian stuff. And there's stuff in the Eastern European countries that are just cool. So we'll see. I'm probably do some collaborations with some people, because there's going to be a language issue, and that doesn't mean there's going to be how do I find these things in different countries? But we shall see. What did Hitler ever do to you? And where did that come from? The Italian, Spain, Portugal. Well, Spain obviously doesn't, because Spain had Franco. And that's actually interesting. Italy has a ton of bunkers and underground fighting facilities and tunnels and stuff. Italy's going to be really interesting. So we're going to go there, definitely. Also, big NATO headquarters, underground bunker I'm going to go see. But Spain, well, we're allied. It was sort of a tacit alliance with, what happened to my language, with the Germans, because the Germans helped Franco win the Spanish Civil War. Let's face it. Sent a lot of planes, a lot of bombers, a lot of arms to Spain to help and support Franco. But when it then came to the Spanish had the Blue Brigade they sent on to fight on the Eastern Front against the Russians, because Franco didn't want to let German troops go through through Spain when Hitler wanted Gibraltar, and he wanted to go through with troops or fly over. So officially, Franco never really took sides, but he still did. And this had something to do with Admiral Canaris, who was head of the Abwehr intelligence, who was playing both sides of the field. And he actively advised Franco against signing up with Hitler, which is a good reason why Franco didn't. But it also led Franco to stay out of World War II, which, with its sympathies, let's say in the Canary Islands, there were German submarine bases all over, and underground facilities with arms and torpedoes for rearming of German submarines. That was Spanish. So they did help, but they didn't actively join the war. Although there was also quite a lot of German radio stations in Spanish soil. There's German cemeteries to soldiers and SS men that was killed and died in Spain, and a lot of them lived in Spain after the war. So, on paper, Spanish was neutral, and it did play a little bit of both sides, but certainly had no problem helping the Germans or the SS or the intelligence with what they needed and they would fly over and do whatever they sort of wanted to do. And that would sort of come back to having a whole lot of Germans who wanted for war crimes after the war had a place to go, so they all went to Spain or over Spain. And again, you can say, well, the Canary Islands with the David, do you know if those bases were they touched by the volcano, or because I know there's been a whole bunch of stuff going on in the Canary Islands, and I really wanted to see the underground stuff in the Canary Islands one day. My mom lived there for 11 years, so she loved it there. But for some when we were there, that was not on the. I didn't know at that time. Premisal, yes. Actually, Andreas, that is one of the things I want to do. You're welcome, lady. There's a lot more to Spain than just that. But in Italy, a lot, obviously, because they were allied. And something else that's very interesting about Italy is up in the Alps, and I still haven't gotten an answer to this yet. There are bunkers that was built all the way up until 1942. Remember, Mussolini and Hitler, they were allied way up until Mussolini was arrested by the Italian parliament and then rescued by Hitler, put it in place, and then eventually killed. But Italy was always allied with Germany, yet in the Alps up in Italy on the Italian side, there are bunkers facing Germany, facing the German advance routes into Italy. That was built all the way up until 1942 when supposedly Hitler told Mussolini to knock it off and stop building them. They're very, very well camouflaged. I have video of them from the outside. I haven't done an episode because I didn't get to go inside because I couldn't get anybody to let me in. They're expertly camouflaged as part of the mountain and with machine gun nests, and they cover the whole approaches of that valley. And I was going to have to go back and figure out exactly what was going on there because nobody could tell me exactly why the Italians were building these facing Germany that late. But that is a different story. Of course, they did during World War One. It could more explanation to come. But there's some interesting bunkers they built up there. They look really, really interesting. Sold Adolf Hitler bears in tourist shops. Oh, that is so funny. I guess not if you're Jewish. No, that is funny. Really? If you bought one, send me a photo. I'm curious. And the Swedish name. Oh yeah, I can tag these. I cannot. Well, we're going to have. No, you're going to have to take me there instead. How about that, Pierre? Because I guess I'm going to Sweden as well. Well, if I'm going to be wheeling my way all the way up and down Norway, I might as well go to Sweden. By the way, you sent me an email. Yes, you did. Lisa, are you out there as well? And there's a lot of episodes on World War One coming up that I need to get some French subtitling on because between Rogers, myself, and two Frenchmen speaking in broken English and French, I figure some of this needs to be subtitled because Lord knows none of you will understand it. But I have really cool episodes. We're working on French World War. Somebody rebuilt one of the French trenches. A bunch of people, cool reenactors. They built a World War One French trench with everything, all the setups, medical, forges, everything, and original uniforms and everything out by by Verdun. So we're going through that because I figured, well, if you're going to talk about World War I, you need to see what these guys are wearing, how they were living, what they were doing. So they rebuilt part of the trench system there actually was with everything they could find. So that's kind of cool. Leading into some of the test bunkers the Germans built not far from there. A lot of interesting stuff for World War I. Anyway, lots of interest in the Yugoslavia. There's nothing that's not interesting. And a lot of the stuff that happened, the problem with a lot of the stuff that happened in Yugoslavia is a lot of it has been destroyed or demilled or covered up from the last 20 years of fighting and crap. I would imagine. I haven't been there. I haven't been there on a historical excavation. Let's put it that way. So I would very much like to go back to the Balkans in general. And I would very much like somebody to show me some of the historical locations of the Balkans. Gee, I see we have a volunteer. No need to try. Yeah, but other people don't. Like my crappy French. Ilya, we got to talk about this because I would very much like to see some of the World War II sites, if there's anything left of Yugoslavia. Um, see, everybody's jumping on you now. You tool. Anyway. Really? Chris, you do? Yes, I am interested in them because I would like to visit some of the Franco-Prussian War forts that might still exist. And quite honestly, there's a lot of cemeteries on the battlefields from the Franco-Prussian Wars that no one really seems to take much care of. And I would actually like to see them, just see what state they're in, see that, because they're fallen on all sides. That would be. I think it's important to it. One thing is the ruins, the forts, the battlefields, the trenches. Another thing is the cemeteries that unfortunately always comes with these, and some of them are not being maintained, and they should be. So I just want to see. Yeah, I would actually like to. I would like to have a chat about doing a trip out in on the Balkans and see what's there. If you have any suggestions, shoot me an email. I'm only like 700-800 emails behind now. It is weighing on me. It'll take me a week to answer them all, which means there'll be a week without episodes. And French vanilla creamer. Hello. All right. Prussian facilities. Yes. Prussian facilities. Oh, well, I mean, to a degree, some of the German forts that were built around Metz, the ones that we visited, the ones that we've seen, like Mutzi, well, to a degree, they are Prussian forts because, well, Prussia was pretty much in charge at that time. At least certainly it could be said. So they are an evolution of Prussian military facilities, all of the ones that was built before World War I out in Alsace-Lorraine. I would love to see Prussian facilities in Prussia. I would love to see our Prussian house come back to me, but the Poles won't give it back because our family is Prussian for many, 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 many centuries. I need to save. I have lots and lots. Oh, staff. Yeah, I need a staff. Yeah, but even if I hired my imaginary cute assistant named Cindy, she couldn't answer the emails because you're asking me questions from places I've seen and I've been. So no one can answer these for me. Nobody can do a lot of this. I can't just go film this and give it to an editor as they put it together because there's no idea what's what. So I'm the only one who can do this. And that's fine. I just stop having life or going out or dating or eating or anything. What do you mean to see you in 10 years? I was thinking about in a few months. I'm surprised that Righteous Red, I'm surprised that Reinhard Heydrich's grave is still intact. Anyway, War of 1770. So it is, Andres, you're absolutely correct. That's why I keep kind of trying to drag it into it. Because the Franco-Prussian War was the beginning, and the beginning of the whole concept of the Nazi Greater Europe, Greater Germania started in 1840. And the Swiss are probably involved, but that's a whole different story. Have I always passed through Belgium? You're a guy for World War I artillery fort. Could you shoot me an email? I will come take a look at that with you. Oh. We're talking to Martin here. Would you just shoot me a quick email so I can get a hold of you before I come to Belgium, because I am coming to Belgium. You are in Prussia, spaceman. Outstanding. So can we have my family's castle back, please? Is the question. Everyone in Poland says no. That's not all they said, but can't repeat that here. Spaceman, where are you in Prussia? Just out of curiosity, are you anywhere near? Well, are you we're talking about East Prussia, out within Wolfsley in the center and so on. Walking. Well, I would like to have a couple of people with me to hold the camera so I can actually dig. However, oh yeah, when you send me videos, when you send me emails, just put in the heading what it is, information, question, suggestion, rude suggestions of what I can do with myself. Just let me know what I'm getting into. Calm yourself. I would. Reality sucks. That's where we're going for history. You need to get married so you can't touch it. Yes, that's what I will do. I'll get a cute wife and then I'll ruin her completely by making her a military historian. I think if I find a cute wife, she should just stay in bikini modeling, really. But that's just me. I'm trying to get... I am... well, where's the Danish scat? We haven't seen them for a while here. I have a joke to them. I am interested. Yeah, I mean, I go to Denmark. There was a Danish gentleman that wrote me, and I wrote him back. He hadn't gotten back to me. I have to find him. There's some. Yes, I have to go to Denmark. There's somebody sent me some information I need more on, because it was about nuclear projects, Germany, World War II, hidden places, locations that he wandered himself into. That's a different story we will get to. Well, World War I was less on camera, Raymond, than World War II. And World War II is the controversial one that has all those factors that still makes people money today. So you don't want to talk about that's the interesting one. It was on camera. It was the first, well, World War I was on camera too, but not to the same degree. And when it comes to movies, well, World War I uniforms are harder to get to. It's just World War II is still in living memory. And it's the one that has been lined up as the black and white movie where the good versus evil is straightforward. We all know nothing is black and white straightforward. You're right, William. Unless I become a millionaire again. Oh, Lucy, that is bad. Getting permission to dig in Poland can be hard. It can be easy if it's in a place that everybody agrees that there's nothing interesting in. But like our friends from Riesa, when they want to start digging, ooh, that's a problem. Because as we all know, well, if you might find something, ooh, we can't do that. All right. How far down now? How far behind am I? Guy in Antwerp. A lot of Dutch and Belgians here. I love it. Could we have some good weather when I come back? Again, I've got a couple more episodes from Holland. I actually like it out there. Spaceman, you yeah, it's interesting that the swastika was used. You see a lot of British, Irish planes had swastikas on Americans. The swastika was fairly normal and well used for World War One, and I think the Finnish one, it is not. The swastika the Finnish used is not tilted that way like the German. It's flat that way, so slightly different. The Native Americans out here has ranches with swastikas all over out here outside LA. So Leon, oh really, Danny, really? If that's a YouTube, I would love to see what Leon actually have to say. I would see that would be an interesting movie. That See, there are so many interesting stories on the Axis side of the war that you sort of can't make because they're supposedly they're the baddies. You don't make movies about making them look interesting or good, according to Hollywood. But according to my last couple of agents, Hollywood is dying, so I guess we can do whatever we want. Leon Degrelle would be a really interesting story to make. One of the few dedicated politicians who actually went to war starting as a private for what he believed after having been in office. I don't recall the entire story how his political career went. He was the one Hitler, when he finally met him, said, if I had a son, he would be like you. And I am not entirely unconvinced of what you read, that Hitler did not know about Hesse's flight. There's some interesting questions there. Well, we'll get to Hess when we get to the profile on the profiles of World War II. Yeah, Knut, I don't think there's much hope for the swastika. I think it was a Tibetan good luck charm, but it's turning the other way. I had one. My mom gave me a little Tibetan thing that I actually don't know where it is. Anyway, now swastika symbol. Have not seen it in any Masonic content, however. Streaming shows turning into new Hollywood. Yeah, Hollywood is. It's interesting that the Chinese, as you know, for last 20 years, I worked in the film business and on shows and stuff, and it's interesting that the Chinese just came out and told Hollywood to stop being so woke because they're going to go bankrupt. Hollywood have been strangling themselves, not in the fun hanging in the closet apparently way, but suicidally so. They're making content that is utterly crap. Cheers, Ian. They are. I haven't watched any new movies for a decade. I don't watch any TV shows. I watch old stuff because it's still a little political, it's a little twisted, but not as much as the past 10, 15 years. And we are back to the ones who are yelling the loudest are not the majority. They're just the ones who are yelling the loudest. But you are making movies to 10% of the world's population. So the 90% have nothing. And it was very interesting because we just finished a World War II film, a straightforward World War II, starting on the Eastern Front and then going to France before D-Day. And my new distributor loves it because it is exactly what it is. It is just a good old-fashioned war movie. It's going to be called Iron Cross. No, there's no pandering to anyone because not that I would, but if you do a straightforward war movie, well, that's what it is. That's what happened. There's no that you can't screw it up by inserting all these modern themes. We're doing a biker movie this year. That's going to be interesting because that's set right here now. So we're going to try to do a different way of doing things. But I think there's a lot more independent film producers who are going to be much more successful in the future because we can write a script and produce it without, yes, for less money, less special effects. We may actually have to require a little bit of editing. We can just make a movie and be true to a story. We don't have to sit down and say, well, the Chinese don't like this. Oh, the liberals don't like that. Oh, the transgenders don't like this. We have to accommodate everybody. So you tear every story to pieces. And then you fill every movie I see, like what Disney's doing, everything is CGI. Nothing is left down to any kind of good acting or even realistic action. It's all fantasy. And it's all a distraction anyway. But I think it's very sad what's happened to the film industry because in the 50s and the 60s, the old Hollywood would never have gone this far. But a lot of them were veterans that came back from World War II, and they were all they were all soldiers, or all had a very patriotic slant. Now, for the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years, Hollywood has slowly been turning in a direction that is very one-sided. And that's just sad, because there's a lot of good entertainment that could have been made. Free the movies. I kind of like that. Byron gets a kid on. I have my buddy out in Tennessee. Yeah, no, in Michigan. Ohio has a couple of kitten lots. All right, so quad cycle. Do you have a problem with my breathing? Well, the problem with, you don't have to breathe very hard when you are walking 5 inches from a directional microphone pointing at you. So, well, gee, I'm not going to silence my breath. Damn it, I'm not going to hold it. And it was fun because, well, fun or not, I had my wonderful 2-day Corona 3 weeks before I went out to film last time, and I was fatigued for a couple of months. And I'm like, holy hell. So crawling up and down all those stairs in the Maginot Line forts and Riese, I was still recovering, and that was just, yeah, fun. Speaking of heavy breathing, the problem, BMCG, is there's a lot of good scripts written by good single people, singles production producers, writers. It's about getting them funded. It's not even about getting them distribution. Makes less money now that everything is online. When we sold DVDs, you'd make $1 every DVD. Now you make a quarter of a nickel for every stream or every download. So when it comes to money, you, as purely from a production standpoint, you make a lot less money back to the investors or to yourself from the movies you make, because the outlets are just different, and that is that makes it hard to get your money back. So that means you have to have lower budgets, but you have to have higher qualities. Now, and you can't do movies where you need millions of dollars of CGI. You can't do all those Star Wars and all that fantasy crap, because you can't afford it. You're not going to make that money back. And so you have to do something no comment. So you really have to, it's a balance of what you can do to still recuperate your money. And but I would rather watch a well-made independent film for $500,000 than I would watch something coming out of Disney, because I can only take so much fantasy. Honestly, it's just, but it is all about, same thing with the video games. Video games make more money than Hollywood these days. It is all about a little bit better than Blair Witch, but it made money because it has good publicity. People watch and do what you tell them to do. If you have good advertisement / propaganda for it, then that's what people are going to do. And like Blair Witch Project had a phenomenal advertisement campaign that absolutely didn't back up the movie, because what the hell? So, and you're seeing a lot of studios moving out of this town, also because California is just ruining its own business. But that's just Europe is turning into the expensive part of Denmark, full of taxes and rules and regulations that you can't do anything. Or if you look at Dunkirk, it's interesting you should mention it. I didn't really like it, because it was very compartmentalized for me. I thought it was well produced, well filmed, well edited, but it was very clean in a sense. It was very compartmentalized. It was a stylistic version, and because we all know that at Dunkirk, if you look at pictures of that beach, it was a complete messy battlefield with crap and people and trucks and bodies strewn all over that beach. And I'm looking at, when he did the wide shot of the guy standing in line and there's nothing in the far distance in any direction, that's when he lost me on Dunkirk, because that just was so unrealistic in the chaos of that situation, of that time and place. But I mean, it was a stylistic depiction of it. 1917. I saw 1917 with a couple of the guys from the movie we just did, and it was interesting because, yes, let's go with inspired by real events, because based on real events, well, where's there a waterfall anywhere near there? There's a lot of things that I would pick holes in the storyline and what we saw them do. I don't think the story is nearly as accurate as it's depicted, but it's a movie, so it doesn't have to be. And halfway, when we got into the first 15 minutes, then I stopped watching it as a person watching a movie. Now the movie maker in me starts watching, going like, holy crap, this is shot as a one shot. The whole film is shot as a one shot, seamless, where you don't see any transition. It's literally one camera shot the whole movie, which I thought was really cool. The problem is, as the more I get into it, I'm looking for the seams of the transitions. I'm looking for the technical details more than I'm actually enjoying the movie. And you know, again, everybody has their take. It's in 1917. It was. Was there an original 1917? I mean, I'm guessing there's a lot. Anyway, before we get too much into other stuff, I actually want to, as you know, we all do this so we can answer questions, and we actually have a question. Like I said, whenever I post these things, it's mandatory. If you have any specific questions you want me to cover, we will cover them. So we'll take the question to go in the emails that you send me until the day before, so I can actually just read up on the answer. And yes, I have Hunt for Zero Point is sitting back here on my shelf. Warhorse, can't see it because it has an animal in it, and that I love animals, and I don't want to see them sad or hurt or harmed. I want all animals to have a wonderful, happy life. And then for some of them, I want them to have an incredibly expedient ending before they end up on my dinner table. But I want them to be happy first. All right. So, gee whiz, it's shocking. I have 3 questions about Nazis. I know we never talk about that. I must be complete out of the blue. Sorry. I'm going to swing that over here so I can actually read my little notes here. I made notes. And now I can almost see you guys as well. We're still talking about movies. Yeah, like I said, I didn't watch Warhorse. And I do like Patton. Of course I like Patton. He sounds so much cooler than the real thing. But I walked out of that Will Smith movie with the dog, the zombie thing, but I can't remember what it's called, because I was just sitting there the whole movie. I'm just waiting for the dog to die. I know something's going to kill this dog. And I'm like, I'm not going to watch this. I'm going to go home to my own dog. So I did. I literally got out to the movie theater, left my friend there 20 minutes in the movie, because there's this dog that's no, don't need to see it. No, it's going to happen. All right. Knock it off. You should watch a movie. No, I cook. All I ever do whenever there's anything going on is I cook. And yes, Dr. Strangelove was really cool. I stay in the kitchen and I cook for people, and then we have fireworks in the canal right here in front of my house, so I don't have to get out for that. Although I do miss the part about Europe where we can just blow up everything ourselves. However, now I got 3 questions that we will and have and must. Yeah, I am legend. Yeah, couldn't watch it to the end. I know the dog died, so figure I didn't need to watch this. So, all right, I got 3 questions that all actually tie together, and it's kind of interesting that I'm sure. Where are you, Crystal? I am sure that you probably knew some of this, and you probably also knew how this all ties together, because you were asking me 3 questions that are, what do I know about Nazis going to Egypt and converting to Islam and training jihadists in the Middle East after the war, of course? And what do I know about Otto Skorzeny and the Grand Mufti and Eichmann working on the Jewish problem, parentheses? and al-Husseini, and the rumors of the werewolves that was the forefathers to Al-Qaeda and the modern day terror factions. Well, now we know what we're talking about for the next hour, because that's not a simple question, but it is a really interesting question. Thank you, on Himmler. Thank you, and welcome to the Madhouse. And right, so let's I'm just covering the question that we just got. So we're just going to do this one, and I'll have cake for anybody who shows up. Now, when we talk about, I'm just going to focus on the question for a minute. So hold on for a second there. I'm going to ignore the chat for a second. Otherwise, I'll never actually get to answer this proper and remember what I'm saying. What is interesting about this is when you talk about who went to Egypt at the end of the war, and what happened to, we all know that there was a whole bunch of Germans and Austrians that were wanted for war crimes and involvement in the Holocaust and a whole lot of different things that were wanted and thus disappeared from Europe. A lot of them went to Argentina. A lot of them some went to Italy. Some of them went to Switzerland, and some of them went to the Middle East. They didn't really start arriving in the Middle East until the late 40s, when the Egyptians really wanted to, when the Israeli country, when Israel became an entity and a country, it became a thing for the Egyptians to try to get rid of it. We all know about their battles and their fights. And in the 1950s, the Egyptian military actively recruited former SS men, people that had anything to do with training, and obviously Alois Brunner, who was the Eichmann's lieutenant, was one of them, and he lived in Egypt until he supposedly have died recently under the name George Fischer. And you had quite a few SS officers and Gestapo men that went to the Middle East, and specifically went to Egypt, where they trained the Egyptian army on the attack on Israel. And those are the Arab coalition from after the Israelis formed in 1948, that the German advisors was discreetly snuck down to Egypt. Some of them not really discreetly, because you had this whole amount of Germans in Egypt was well known by the West German government, and it sort of helped some diplomatic issues and conversations. There was some. I'm not going to say there's no love, there's no hatred between the Egyptians and the West Germans, and having a bunch of Germans in Egypt that was working there sort of smoothed over some things that needed to be done. And the Germans weren't exactly living. Some of them had been recruited from here and there. Otto Skorzeny was one of them, and they were not hiding per se. They had been recruited from. Some of them had lived in Italy. Some of them lived in Argentina and different places. A very interesting person that had found himself living in Egypt was Dr. Wilhelm Voss, who's the head of the Skodewerke. And I don't know if you remember me talking about that in the first Last Nazi Secret episode, but he was the one who ran Skodewerke and worked with Kammler. And after the war, he became an international armsman, a weapons dealer. Which, I mean, you run the Skodewerke, the biggest arms factory in the war. What else are you going to do? You're going to go to the Middle East and sell weapons, right? You had one of the Special Forces commandos, Gerhard Martin. He trained Egyptian paratroopers. And interestingly enough, he also, as living there in Egypt, represented interests like from Mercedes and Siemens. So you had a lot of these guys that went there, and they took up Egyptian or Muslim names I don't think they converted uh, actively to Islam. I don't think they did at all. But they took up Egyptian names, which made it a lot harder for anybody to actually find them, which is makes it somewhat interesting because everybody knew they even lived in the same quarter, they went to the same country clubs, and so you had a lot of Germans that went there. At least 50 higher ranking that we know of went to Syria. 70 at least went to Egypt, and some of them did. Some of them did convert. Franz Stegel, who was the commander of the Sobibor death camp, he went there. Walter Rauff, who supposedly developed the mobile gas chambers, he went there. So you had some, shall we say, notorious or interesting Germans that went there to help train the Egyptian military. Okay, now, so you put Otto Skorzeny into this. He was, interestingly enough, he did a lot of it. Towards the end of the war, he had helped set up the Werewolves, which was supposed to be locals with small amounts of weapons or explosives that would commit sabotage against the occupying forces all throughout Germany and Austria. And it didn't, there was assassinations made, there were some killings done, there were some bombs that went off, but it was never in any which way what you would call successful. It never, there was just not enough of anything. In hindsight, not knowing the entire picture, it could also be said that they were probably set up a little too fast, although some were actually trained. Some of them were very young, which was also a problem because you took very young and Hitler youth and trained in this, and they weren't very good at it. They weren't exactly discreet, and a lot of them got caught. Also, the mayor of Aachen was killed, which was a problem. Well, and then you have that kind of thing becomes a problem because now you're looking at an occupying power who started viewing all those who had surrendered and wanted to live in peace with suspicion. So I'm not. The Werewolves would dedicate a whole episode and a lot of more research before I really venture into that. But it didn't have the success. But that was one of Otto Skorzeny's brainchilds, or he was part of the training of this. He also, at the Battle of the Bulge, had him and 50 of his guys put on American uniforms to create some crap behind the lines. There was even German tanks with American markings on them that was roaming around there, at least one, to confuse the Americans. And after the war, Skorzeny, he surrendered, which I thought was really weird because here's a person who has his talent for, well, it's really hard to disappear with a gigantic dueling scar on your face. Just like Kaltenbrunner. But he could have disappeared, knowing what he knows about infiltration, exfiltration. He was on terms with Himmler and Hitler himself. He could have disappeared. He surrendered. And he was put on trial in 1947 because he had worn the enemy uniform. And they were actually going to execute him, except from a British commando stepped up and testified on his behalf that the British had done the same. So they let him off. From that, then they stuck him back in another prisoner of war camp. And in 1948, 3 Americans showed up and to supposedly take him to another camp. They were all SS men that busted him out, and he went out and disappeared. From there on, he went to, I think he went to Spain from there. And he was one of the ones that were recruited down to Damascus, down to Egypt, where he was part of training NASA's armies. He was also the bodyguard for Eva Perón in Argentina. He was living there for years. So Skorzeny has a very interesting story. He's a very interesting person, and problem with Skorzeny is he wrote his own book, which, well, hey, everybody writes their own book, but he wrote his own book. And it's not exactly that you write your own book. You kind of tell the story you want to tell about you. He did do a lot of interesting missions. He's the one that rescued Mussolini, and he kidnapped the son of was it Horthy's that wanted to defend. I mean, he did real stuff, and to get Mussolini, they used counterfeit pound notes, 100,000, to pay for the information on Mussolini. That was headed by Skorzeny and his men as well. So they were all well connected, and yeah, he kidnapped Horthy's son, Horthy Jr. And flew him to Vienna in order to put pressure on his father to not surrender to the Russians. So, he could have been said to have been instrumental. And the interesting thing about Skorzeny is, so after he escaped, he hid in Bavaria for 18 months. Then he went up in Spain, and from there he ended up. He's the one that trained Arafat, but he also ended up working for the Mossad, for the Israelis. From 1952, he worked in Egypt as a military advisor, and for Nasser and all those people, with a lot of other of his former colleagues from the war. It was just interesting that the Israelis then recruited him in 1963 to work for them, because you would think that they made him the offer of, he goes to work with them and sell out some of the Egyptians and Palestinians, because he also trained the Palestinians, in exchange for not being killed. Because, I mean, the Mossad had a thing about traveling around the world and killing people they didn't like, especially former Nazis or SS men. And you would think they could have gotten to Skorzeny if they really wanted to. He didn't exactly live in secrecy. And I think that was the deal done. And you also have to, in this light, understand that all intelligence networks and military and law and all special forces, all intelligence networks, there is a network that crosses the lines of the countries and the ideologies, where these guys, just like with intelligence, don't ever think that during the Cold War the CIA and the KGB didn't have channels of communication. So just because you are now Mossad and you are now a post-war Nazi entity, don't think there's no communication between the two. There always is, and even if we don't hear it. And he was even instrumental in setting up the German Red Lines to help getting other people out of Germany. So I mean, he was a very interesting person that did a lot of very interesting things. Now, the werewolves, as in being the forefathers of Al Qaeda, not really. The werewolves were basically too few and too far. There was a small group of people who didn't really have anything they wanted to do. They were localized to Germany and Austria, and they kind of withered away. That wasn't it. That you had towards the end, you had Germans that set up, the SS had set up the Hamscha division, the Muslim SS division, and that they had also worked to try to support the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt to do an uprising against the British. And in fact, the first one to call for jihad against the British and against the West was Kaiser Wilhelm during World War I. So there was always a connection between the Muslim organizations and Muslim independent organizations and the Germans, and so of course that would transfer over onto the Nazi movement. Although how much of a sympathy between Nazi Germany and Egypt and Egyptian Muslims there were during the war, there's a lot of conflicting research, so it's really hard for me to pin down and say, oh, this was this or that, because some say there was, and some say there wasn't. Some new research has said that National Socialism, of course, went against other cultures than those of the Aryans, that as Germany had been now perceived as being. So that is complicated. However, you could easily make the case that former SS men, former special forces of Germany, were training. They were training Arafat's people. They were training other Muslim organizations and paramilitary groups in the Middle East. So, yes, you can say that I don't know if there's a link between those that was trained by the Nazis to Al Qaeda. I could also make the link that it's just as plausible that the Al Qaeda operatives, when they were fighting the Russians, were trained by CIA or West German intelligence. Because when we came to the war in Afghanistan during the Russian invasion and the activities of the CIA to aid the Mujahideen in getting the Russians out, they were just as well aided by the West Germans. And we all know that West German intelligence was run by Reinhard Gehlen, who was the head of Fremdes Heeres Ist during the Second World War, and put in place as the head of the German intelligence, first by the CIA and then by Adenauer. So you had a whole lot of Nazis in the West German government, and certainly intelligence and military and law enforcement, and a lot of the Gestapo had just changed clothes. They just switched uniforms or thing on their badge, I would imagine. I went back to work. So if you take Mujahideen being trained by, well, everybody, you have the CIA and you had the West Germans and others that was training them, and then you make the link from the Nazis to the West Germans, and then you make the link from the Mujahideen to Al Qaeda. Well, default sort of brings back to yes, but there's several steps in between that. Just like you said, the U.S. backed Saddam when he was fighting Iran. I mean, instead of butting out of things, the U.S. always picks some side and then eventually realize that we want to get rid of them too. It's lots of things could be said about U.S. foreign policy over the last 100 years. There's just not a whole lot of them that could be construed as being good. Don't get me wrong. It's a great country with some great people, and people who are running foreign policies in most countries are morons. Anyway, hang on. I have to do a thank to Alan. Thank you, brother. Yes, everything in California is twice as much as everywhere else in the world. Now, what time are we looking at in your worlds now? Crystal, does that somewhat answer your question? I think that's important since you asked it. Lisa, you're leaving. Take care. Now I'm back. Now I'm actually looking at the chat again. I'm sorry. I had to just kind of focus on babbling on what the question I actually got was. Is it about anybody looking at the New Year now? Because I'll be damned if you're going to go into the New Year listening to me talk. In Europe, you've got about half an hour to midnight. Am I right? Lady, shouldn't you be wasted on champagne at this point? Yes, it does. All right. So, yeah, I'm like I said, that this is not just a simple topic. There's a lot more and a lot of research that really needs to be done to really cover that one. And a lot of it brings us into present day. It's only 8:30 in Copenhagen? What the hell? Oh. Okay, well, never mind. You're fine. I thought it was midnight somewhere. But I only have an hour and a half until the bakery closes, and I need to go yell at them. Damn it. Send us the wrong pastries. That's just unseemly. And I think it's leg day in the gym, too. And I'm doing my multiples of fish. 9:30. All right, so it's not midnight anywhere. Not even Australia? Well, I would sort of hope that. I would sort of hope that anybody spending 15 minutes to midnight, half an hour to midnight on New Year's Eve would be doing something more fun than listening to me talk. Just saying. Who wants that? 3.5 hours to go. All right, so we all have time. Outstanding. Well, anyway, that was 1:30 Missouri. It's actually, the sun is actually shining so nice out here. I think it might be motorcycle day today. Yesterday it was, of course she's not. I thought it was 11:30 out there now. So it's almost 5 o'clock. So yes. Where's my Bloody Mary breakfast? It's been baking bread. Baking bread. You know, I should bake bread for my open fish Danish sandwich. And if there's any Danes out there, I'm making a stjerneskud, which is a whole lot of fish on top of toasted bread. I figure everybody eats fish except that New Year's Eve where I made it and half of everybody showed up and said, "We don't eat fish." What the hell? Right? Except I can't find any righteous caviar around here, and I'm not going to put herring on it because then people will just, no one from Australia. Well, you know what? I don't know what the time is in Australia right now. I believe I have the technology to figure that out. I don't need that. Because if it's midnight now, there should be partying, or well, actually, they're all locked up in their buildings, not allowed to step outside their balcony. So, not kidding on that either. Time in Australia time. Oh, come on, you know what I mean. Now, yes, it is 6:32 a.m., so they're not even awake yet. Well, never mind then. Anybody on my Patreon say anything? So, how are you guys feeling with what I'm doing with the website? You kind of like with the words I'm going with that. I'm gonna divide it up in more departments and more individual pages. Once in Poland, France, World War I, World War II, East Wall, bunkers, walkthroughs. You know, gonna divide it up more than that. So, I don't know if you've seen the new website. And there's also a comment section on the back. As a inner fanatic. Well, when it comes to the Ahnenerbe, there's one thing that keeps. I'm doing the Ahnenerbe special before the next installment of Himmler, and because I think we had to get the Himmler special in to understand where and who and how he came from before we got to the Ahnenerbe, because, well, it was his brainchild and it was inspired by his interest in history. And when it comes to the Ahnenerbe, I really, I'm just not seeing a whole bunch of SS men dancing around in robes worshiping ancient deities. I'm not seeing it anywhere. I see a lot of gossip, a lot of rumors, a lot of occultism, this and that, and I'm seeing a lot of. Thank you, Craig. I never saw that he had a tattoo. I actually didn't. Thank you. I will never see his naked back, actually. That whole occult thing, I'm not finding it. I'm not finding these crazed Nazis dancing around doing ancient ceremonies. I'm seeing a lot of archaeological digs, a lot of archaeological excavation. I'm seeing a lot of skewed research having been presented, possibly in order to create. I'm seeing Goebbels use some of the Ahnenerbe research that he's skewing for his propaganda. I'm seeing that. I'm seeing a lot of the SS torchlight parades and ceremonies, and inspired by ancient cultures, everything from the Romans to the old Germans. And I'm trying to put it together in a coherent episode where I break down who's who and their influence. But the people that, if you see the mainstream, it really is a story that sort of have been made. Yes, Hess was very much interested in astrologists and astrology. Even Schellenberg, he wrote about that, how they would used to sort of talk to the astrologers to find out what he wanted, what he was interested in, and then give him suggestions in that order. Hess was fairly easily led, it seems. Himmler had a fascination and interest in all this and ancient witchcraft and religions, But from there on, everything that I have seen on Himmler, I'm not seeing him put on a robe and drink blood out of a skull. I'm not finding any credible evidence of this. And I have Lavenda's book as well. It's actually sitting right here. And there are always subgroups that are interested in taking things to an extreme. And I just need more information. I do know that I'm going to break down the Ahnenerbe fairly easy. I'm going to fairly easy. I'm going to do a good overview of what we actually know. And then when this summer, when I go back out to Prague, where Himmler's library have a lot of it has been found and is sitting in the museum in the National Archive of Prague. I think it's called the National Archive of Prague. And I'm going to go through some of his books and look at his annotations and try to find out, well, what notes did he actually make on this? Because I think it was more a fascination, and maybe a little bit of fascination with the morbid. Hang on, somebody said something about Hess's. Did anyone beside the BBC interview Hess? 420, did the BBC interview Hess? I didn't think anybody was allowed to interview Hess. Elaborate. I did not know. I don't think Hess did what he did. I don't think he was a bad guy. In that sense, I think he generally wanted peace, and they locked him up because he knew something they didn't want to tell. And I don't know, they just didn't do away with him when they could. The Spear of Destiny was taken from the vault in Nuremberg and hidden somewhere. And one of them told the American investigators where it was, and I think they retrieved it, I believe. I know he knew something, and it's really weird. Yes, the Wilhelm Gustloff was 7,000 or 9,000 civilians, and they blew it up and destroyed it, and poured cement over it. Why did they do that? Then again, they did the same thing of that ferry that sunk, the passenger ferry that sunk. It's garbage day. I know the garbage trucks outside on damn New Year's Day. You would think they have a day off, and this is California. I don't know. It is they have a tendency of covering up things, some for a reason and some for no reason whatsoever, which is really, really weird. I mean, it just sounds. There was an occult interest, but after Hess disappeared, a lot of occultists were rounded up and locked up. And yes, it is true that they had some pendulum swingers that was pulled out of the concentration camp because, well, let's try everything, and then you've got to give it to the Germans. They tried everything. This might work. All right, let's try it. Navy said, well, then maybe we can find enemy battleships or convoys. All right, we'll pull them out of the camp. And if you're sitting in a labor camp and not eating much, not having much of a fun life, and somebody says, do you want to come out and try to do this for the Navy? You'll just say yes to anything. And that was even written by Schellenberg, said, yeah, but you know what? They're faking it. But you know what? What else are they going to do? They pull them out of a camp where they didn't get much to eat, and here they're milking it a little bit until we throw them back in. So, there's a lot of research to it. I'm going to try to break down the Ahnenerbe, but it is just not as a lot of archaeological excavations and interest, but not as much of the really. There's nothing really sexy in there from what I'm seeing, and I wish I could find something. In fact, most of the crazies that was involved in the Third Reich and the Nazis early on, as Himmler sort of figured out that some of these people were batshit nut, he kicked them out. Pendulum swingers, I mean, I have no problem with supernatural, or I wanted to call them degaussers, but that's something completely different. There I know they have a name. Right, there's. Yes. There is no such thing as expired ammo. There's only expended ammo. Just saying. Whole thing about things, the expiration date on a box of ammo is just, you're an idiot. Anyway. All right, you guys. Yeah. The human lampshade story have been debunked significantly. The soap story have been debunked. I have no bone in that fight. I just saw that it was a story for a long time, and then it came out that a decade ago that it didn't happen after all. Aging Viking, what did I miss you say? Aging Viking, what is a true story that I missed you say? I don't see. It was a garbage truck. Did you say something that I missed? I mean, I genuinely. Well, we're going to get into that on the profiles when it came to what Hitler really wanted when it came to England. I don't think initially he ever wanted a war with England. He wanted what he wanted in the East, and there's not a whole lot of doubt that there was going to be a war that way, but not really in the West. And I will keep the West had England had they sold out Czechoslovakia. They sort of sold out Poland as well, because never really came to their aid when the chips went down. The French didn't invade as they said they would, and the British flew a few bombers over Germany, and that was it. So if the British had not promised the Poles help, if they held out, the Poles might not have held out. The Allies would then maybe had done a deal for that corridor to Danzig. Maybe, and maybe there was not have been a war in the West, only in the East. But it seemed that there is very much of an interest in England to make sure this war started. And if you had appeased Hitler half the way, how's he to know you're not going to do the same thing on the next step in the game? So it's a very long debate, and I would actually love to have this. Anyway, we all need more ammo. I have a shirt that says that. But anyway, I'm going to go too, because I have to get ready for all the stuff I'm getting ready for. And we will talk more. Letting you know, on Sunday, the episode on Sunday is more an interview with the author who wrote that book than it is an actual episode. So if you're not there live, it's something that's important, that we need to spread the word about the 9,000 French deportees. It's not a theory story. It's just it's a good story, and it's something that needs to be spread, because he's still looking for the families of them in the English-speaking countries. That's why I wanted to do an interview with him. Lots more stuff coming in the new year. You all know that. You guys have a happy new year, and you be safe. And if you blow anything up for fun out there, make sure that I get pictures of it. And we'll talk a whole lot more in the new year. Maybe I'll go live on Sunday. I think I'm working Sunday, and I don't think I have internet that'll actually carry a live conversation, but maybe we can try. That interview with Hess, if you can actually find one, I don't know if you ever did one. Do let me know. Hey, it's Salty Armor. And anyway, you guys all be safe and take care. And I will see you all next year. And I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate you all being here and helping me out with this. Like I said, we're all in this together. And all right. Okay. We all have to go. It's New Year's Eve-ish day. And I have to go yell at the garbage trucks because, come on. Take care. Be safe. If you can't be safe, don't get caught.